And today we're back into another top 5, and today we're going to be ranking all of the starters from worst to best. I actually made one of these lists before, but it was a few months ago, and ever since then my opinions have changed quite a lot, and also a lot of these starters got buffed. So, yeah, these are ranking all of the starters from worst to best 2.0. Let's head right onto this list. But before we do that, we're doing another giveaway time. Since the Halloween event is going to come in a few days, we are going to be giving away Gamma Halloween Kabunga. And if you want to get this Gamma Halloween Kabunga, if you say Gamma Halloween Kabunga in the comments below, I will give you a number. And then within a few days, we're going to do the random number generator wheel. And if your number gets picked, you will win a Gamma Halloween Kabunga. So yeah, let's head right onto this list, ranking all of the starters. So, the worst starter in all of Lumion Legacy is going to be odd because it's actually Himber. And if Himber's on the bottom of a list, you know that you have some really good Lumions. But yeah, Himber has a lot of advantages. It hits pretty hard. Earth Ice offensively is awesome, has priority, has icicle traps. This has a lot going for it. And with Rageful Plushie makes it actually hit pretty hard. So, Himber, really good Lumion. The stuff that Earth types can't hit can be hit with Ice, and the stuff that Ice types can't hit can usually get hit by Earth. Awesome. And it has a very high defensive stat on both sides, meaning it's able to tank hits on both sides. It does have a couple flaws, though, and these flaws makes Himber the worst starter. Melee tanks, Obsidragon, Ventation, Surkame, Luminami, counters Himber, and also, Ice Earth, while being awesome offensively, it's not the best defensively. Defensively, Himber really struggles, because it gets hit by a lot of things super effectively, without actually having too many things it resists. It resists normal and air, but that's really all I can think of on the top of my head. And it is immune to electric, but that's kind of it. Despite that, though, Himber is still a very good Lumion, but all the other starters have a lot more going for it. And it's barely number 7. I wanted to put the number 6 Lumion here, but Himber is the worst starter. Number 6 under the list is actually going to be Zulong. And I really wanted to put Zulong at number 7. I really wanted to. But it's still one of the fastest Lumions in the game. It has a pretty high attack stat, especially if you consider Awakening into the equation. There's actually a couple ways you can run this thing. You could run the very nimble one. You could run the melee attack version. You could also run the Ancient Roar version. So, Zulong has quite a bit going for it. And it actually has some pretty solid coverage as well, which makes Zulong pretty good. The reason why I wanted to put this at the bottom over Himber, though, is because it really doesn't hit that hard. And Boots Tata pretty much replaces Zulong now. So, Zulong is really not that good because Boots Tata existing. Despite that, though, this thing has Ancient Roar, which is awesome pivot. The coverage moves are really nice. I mean, Ice moves can actually hit Bug types, when Fire moves can hit Metal types, which is awesome. And Electric Ancient is pretty solid stab moves. And it actually can become a very scary late-game cleaner. Zulong is still very scary. Against certain teams, Zulong can easily sweep teams. It is still a massive threat. Despite Zulong not being the best starter, and me really wanted to place it at the very bottom, I couldn't. With its scary speed and really high attack, saves it from being the worst starter. Number 5 under the list is actually going to be Vesperatu. And yes, this is really sad. Vesperatu being ranked number 5, and there's honestly only one reason this thing is ranked number 5. But before, let's talk about its thousands of pros. High attack, solid melee bulk, revival for healing, slapdown utility, phantom slash to hit hard, shadow sprint for priority, and sharpen for setup. Yeah, this thing has so much going for it. If it wasn't for one certain Lumion, this thing would also be considered an Uber, in my opinion. Has pretty fast speed, and even then it has priority, slapdown utility, revival. My gosh, this thing has everything. This thing pretty much has everything except for one thing. Coverage. It doesn't really have any coverage options, meaning that there is one certain Lumion that counters Vesperatu. Teclipse. Eclipse is on every team nowadays. And anytime they see a Vesperatu, you just go into your Eclipse and counter it. Like, I know I shouldn't really judge one Lumion, but since Eclipse is on every team, and since Vesperatu can help Eclipse, immediately makes it not the best starter. Heck, at the bottom 3 in terms of starter. That's why it's ranked this low. Number 4 into the list is actually going to be Serenite. Yeah, Serenite got buffed a lot ever since the last time we made the list. This used to be at the very bottom, but with it getting barbs and body crash, makes this thing really good. And also, the reason why it was also at the bottom is because 1, I didn't really use it right, and 2, I kind of hated Serenite in the past. Thankfully, that has subsided. I can rank Serenite fairly. And this is an awesome Lumion. It hits very hard with Awakening, and it's very bulky with Terrifying. It has a very high melee defense stat. I think it's even better than Himber's. It's still a very good range defense stat, so it's bulky on both sides. And it has a whopping 3 quad resistances. 3 of them. That is absurd. You can use this for a lot of ways. You can use it as a health amulet, body crash user, slap down utility, soaring skill to hit hard. You can even use barbs to place barbs down. And you can even use this as like a 2v2's magnet. Put a strong magnet on this and then have a Tundralin or Eclipse come in and then use this thing to soak that hit. Serenite does a lot really well. The only reason it's number 4 and not higher is because it doesn't have any way to heal up. If it had a healing move, this thing would probably be the best starter in Lumion Legacy, but since it can't really heal itself up without Health Amulet, it makes it number 4. Number 3 onto the list is going to be really interesting because it's Luminami. And I know what you're thinking. Why isn't Luminami the best starter? Well, there's a lot of reasons. It's because Water Light Offense. Water Light offensively is bad. It's the pure definition of bad offensively. And even though Luminami is at its best defensively with Power Napper and as a pivot user, there are so many plant types which are actually used in the meta right now. Tatab, Sea Drake, Chartiki, Nevermare, and yes, Luminami has Mega Chomp and Frostbeam. There's no doubt about it. So it can actually hit those plant types, which is good. But it would suffer from 4-move syndrome, meaning that you would have to drop one of your moves in order to run moves that can hit those scary threats. So, just like a lot of the other Lumions we talked about in the past, this suffers from 4-move syndrome. And while it's an amazing pivot user, and it can get free health at will, you just swap out and back in and get free health, this thing struggles on hitting plant types, and that's why it's not number 1. It's still very high, though. This thing is still very OP, and it being number 3 is really good. Number 2 onto the list is actually going to be Tatab. Tatab is number 2. How did this Lumion get past the drawing board? I do not know. This thing hits hard. It's a Lumion with 126 melee attack, with Awakening, with a 120 power stab move. Oh boy! This thing hits hard. This thing can pretty much two-shot almost anything in the game. I think the only Lumions it can't really two-shot is Obsidian, Cosmeor forms, and Venolin, but that's kind of it. And I know that every toxic type except for Swolder can come in on a Tatab and resist its hits, but there are no toxic types which are really tanky offensively, other than Swolder. Only Swolder's really defensively on the melee side, and even then, it's neutral to Jungle Jitsu, so it really didn't matter in the long run. While yes, Tatab is very frail, and doesn't have the best defenses, this thing hits so hard, and with specialty boots makes it outspeed everything in the entire game. It usually chews down all of its threats before it even has a chance to get hit. And while priority is a problem, it really doesn't matter. If you get rid of those priority users, Tatab can do some massive damage and can take out a lot of Lumions. Although, it's not number 1, as there is one starter which is slightly better. The best starter in all of Lumion Legacy is very close. It is Valkyrie. And honestly, the rankings from 1 to 5 can honestly all be interchanged. But Valkyrie, I think, is the best starter in all of Lumion Legacy. It's basically Tatab on the range side, with better bulk, and setup, and rejuvenate, and questionably better coverage. if you run Airblade. Questionably, there are a couple of counters like Chartiki, Metatoad, and Protagon. But even then, this thing hits so hard. And after a Magnify, oh my gosh, this thing could sweep. There are so many ways you can run a Valkyrie. You could run a Boots Valkyrie to outspeed all its threats. You can run a Magnify pivot set. You can use a tanky pivot set. You can use a Rejuvenate setup set. You can use a freaking melee Valkyrie and it would work. This thing has so many purposes and it's so good. With its pretty average bulk and very hard-hitting capabilities, makes Valkyrie the best starter in all of Lumion Legacy. And it's really close. I almost put Tatab and Luminami up there. But Valkyrie, I think, has the edge, considering it can heal, set up, and hit pretty hard at the same time. Gives Valkyrie the advantage over the other starters in all of Lumion Legacy. And that's why Valkyrie is number 1 on this list. So yeah, here it is. Valkyrie, the best starter in all of Lumion Legacy. And my this list was hard. Honestly, like I said before, almost all the starters can be ranked number 1 based on your personal preference. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this top 5 of me ranking all of the starters from worst to best. And I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!